What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person of the internet to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for returning each and every week to the show. I hope you guys have subscribed on iTunes or Google Play or maybe checked it out on YouTube. If you guys have checked it out on any of those platforms, I greatly appreciate it. This week on the show, we have our guest. His name is Lohr. I actually met this man on a podcast recently. I was a guest on We the Gamercast for their Xbox Predictions show. He happened to be one of the fellow guests there as well. And we had very similar tastes and minds and thoughts of, you know, our predictions with Xbox, and instantly hit it off. So I said, hey, do you want to be on the show? And he said, of course. So really fun chat with him. You guys will get to hear that here very soon. If you guys want to be on the show just like he was, go ahead and send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. Without further ado, let's get things started with Lohr. Do you remember what initially got you started playing games? Was it a family member, a friend, one of those awesome kiosks at a Best Buy or Toys R Us or Walmart or whatever? Do you remember what got you started?
I have no idea what it was. I just remember like little flashes of pressing buttons and getting a reaction on a screen and just the joy that brought me. But as far as like a specific game, I have no idea.
You don't remember like the first console you played or anything?
I can remember like watching Mario jump. I can remember an Atari like joystick where we were attacking AT-AT walkers, like it was an Empire Strikes Back type game, like Walker Assault. I can remember playing an Avengers game at a Walmart at like some arcade game, but I don't know what was first. I don't know what it was that stood out. I just remember a joy of getting a reaction on a screen from pressing a button.
It was just like inherent, like you were just born with it. Like all of a sudden you were just like, hey, these are fun. Just started playing them. That's how it started.
That's how it feels. Yeah, that's how it feels. And we were in a family, like I grew up, my mom's a teacher, or was a teacher as she's retiring this week, but like she was a teacher, and my dad was not a gamer. He was an outdoor, he grew up on a farm. And so they were never sure if games were good. So there was probably some forbidden fruit aspect of it for why I liked it so much. But the reality is, like, even as an adult where I can buy my own games, and I do on the regular, buy tons of stuff, and I really love gaming, it's just an inherent joy from playing. So I don't know what it was the first. I don't know how it happened or why it happened the way it did. I just know I love it.
Right. I mean, and as long as it's just nice that at least your parents were cool about it to the point where they weren't. Were your parents ever like that, though, where they were like, oh, those dang video games, get outside and go build something, go outside and play in the
Yes.
Like, were they very much like, you should be outside doing stuff instead of, quote unquote, rotting your brain playing these games?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. My mom is very much they're both very intelligent people. Like, I grew up under some very intelligent adults, and it was never conclusive if video games were good or bad, and the rumors were that it was bad. Plus, I think their own experiences of being in college, and they played lots of games in college, but they also grew up at a hippie time. So they kind of associated their college choices of recreation right. with video games. And so for better or worse, I think that kind of grew onto me. But I can remember like we didn't have a ton of money, and what we did, my parents spent on us playing sports, because my brother and I were both very talented in soccer. So we played on the travel teams, the expensive teams. That's where our financial resources in the family went. So any video games we did have were usually a generation or two behind what was most popular. And that was a very normal thing for us. So like when Super Nintendo was out, we didn't even have Nintendo. We had the Tiger handhelds. Yeah. And then when Nintendo 64 came out, we got a Super Nintendo, and that was a big deal. And so that was kind of a consistent theme amongst, my family gaming history, until I would say I was in middle school and I could mow enough yards and whatnot to afford a Nintendo 64, and then the guy at Target sold us on a PlayStation instead. And I can remember very distinctly on the way to or before we went to the store, my mom had to convince my dad that we could do this, that we could go buy a system. And my dad was trying so hard to be tolerant, but he hated so much that I was playing games so much. And I remember him standing at the top of the stairs being like, should we go get your toy now? And he called it a toy.
I know, right?
And I was like,
the disdain and disrespect. Like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that hurt. That hurt.
Dude, oh my God. Yeah. Had that getting called a toy, it's not a toy, Dad. It's better. It's not
that's where I was at. I was like, it is not. You don't understand. You don't understand
my needs and wants.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my God, your toy. And again, like I can imagine it, your dad growing up on a farm, your dad being just like, hey, this is all foreign to me. You know what I mean? So, and there's some people out there who, when things like that are available or things like that are new things show up, because some people embrace new technology and some people run away from it and they go, those dangle fangle computers and technologies and your Facebooks and Snapchat, I don't know what some people get like that, but you get those people that do embrace it. But also too, I mean, just depends on how you were raised. And like I said, especially growing up on a farm, that's like there's like levels to technology. And it's like I knew people that lived in the middle of nowhere who, because they lived in the middle of nowhere, had like satellite TV and like had this giant TV and a Nintendo, and they had all these things to kind of like make sure they didn't go crazy. And then there was other people who just straight like, I'm good with just being a farmer and not having any technology and just sitting on my porch and hanging out. Like you just had those two types of people from my experience with people growing up like on farms or in the middle of nowhere.
And that's kind of the funniest thing is my dad, super intelligent man, and hindsight's 20/20, right, with parents. My dad, super smart man, very athletically inclined, always in shape, even to this day in his mid-60s. He looks like he can run a triathlon. But he worked in a cubicle, in a job he hated, so that we could have food on the table. That was it. We were never rich or anything like that, but he worked a job he hated so that we could have things. And then I think for him to see me want things that he didn't see a benefit in kind of bothered him a little bit, because he was, that's not how he grew up. It's not how he was. But one of the most loving parents in the world, he just didn't understand it. And now, with all the research and everything to suggest that video games are not the end of the world, by any means, it's very different. Now he plays on his iPad. His whole house he has a smart house and whatnot. And that's where my parents live their lives now. But it's just so funny to look back and it's so easy to figure out why people think what they think or do what they do. But at the moment, like you just angsty teen, why can't I have the newest game? Because it's $60 and we don't have that.
Right.
What do you mean?
Yeah, yeah. That's the other thing too. Is as a child who doesn't pay bills or a mortgage or have kids or anything, you just don't get it until you get to that point, and you're like, I get it now. Like, it's sad, but you think back, like, dude, I wish I had a job, and I was in high school and I was making the money I do now, but just in high school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, didn't have the responsibilities of a mortgage or a family, and just, back in the day when you got your paycheck and you could just go blow it all and didn't care at all. You're just like, I'm going to go to the mall and I'm going to buy stupid things. I'm going to buy my friend's lunch and then be broke until 2 weeks later. Now it's like, let me put some money in my 401k. Let me do some retirement. Let me do this. And, it's just like your priorities change so much. But then you also realize as you get older, like, hey, man, things are expensive. Like my daughter the other day asked about, because we're taking a trip to Texas. My family's taking a trip to Texas, and she just asked questions. She's like, so are we flying or are we driving? I'm like, no, we're going to drive. And she's like, why? I'm like, because plane tickets cost a lot of money. And she's like, what? Do they cost like $300 for all of us to fly? I'm like, no. I'm like, so for 6 people to fly, here's how much it costs. And she's like, oh, wow. I'm like, yeah, that's why we drive. It's just, she caught that concept. Like, she just didn't understand how much things cost. And, she's all like, she asked questions about like Starbucks. She's like, because they get this vanilla bean, frappuccino, whatever. I don't drink Starbucks. I don't bother. They get the basically sugar drink there. And I'm just like, she's like, if I want to buy that, how much is that? We told her it's like $4. She's like, for that small thing is $4? I'm like, yeah, it is. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh.
And they have the audacity to call it a grande, which means large.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, she was like blown away by the fact that that thing costs $4 and that my wife shills out that plus more for whatever concoction she gets there. She's just like, wow. But also too, when you make kids earn their own money, that's how they'll learn real fast. And yeah, I kind of grew up in the same situation where like my family was super broke and we didn't have anything. And I was lucky enough to have grandparents during Christmas that would get me the games and things I wanted. Like I never got games throughout the year. It was like my birthday, thankfully, Christmas and my birthday's in June. So it was like a 6-month gap. So it's like every 6 months I'd get like a game. So I was kind of, for the most part, staying relevant with stuff. But yeah, dude, I had to bust my butt to be able to get my PlayStation. My grandma was super awesome. She's like, if you earn half, I'll put up the other half. I'll get you a PlayStation.
Oh, nice.
Deal. Like, but again, she wanted to teach me to work hard towards something, but also realistically for a, 10 or 11 year old to get $400 was a long time, and she didn't want to do that to me. So she's like, it'll count as like a gift, like a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. But she's like, hey, if you can get up to here, I'll do that. And I did the same thing for my son. I was like, kid, you want your own Xbox One? Do this. Like, save up. And he did. And like I said, now he appreciates it so much more. Like, he's like, this is mine. I worked hard to save this money to get this. So, yeah, I mean, as long as you can still, because I'm sure your dad, like I said, he didn't understand it, but also, too, like, you saving your own money, I'm sure he was something he was proud of, to, like, for you to at least accomplish something, saving your own money, working towards a task and a goal, and you did it. So, I mean, I'm sure he's happy about that. But to call it a toy, Dad,
it's so funny, because, like, he was such a supportive father. I mean, he coached every team we were on. He would go out and stay late at practices after working in his cubicle all day. He was the best dad in the whole world. But when it came to games, he just didn't get it. He's like, why am I having to pay for your cleats when you're buying this?
Right.
And like, it's a reasonable, logical question, but as a kid, you don't quite get it, you know?
Right. Because games are more fun than cleats. Like, yeah, they are. Sorry, they are.
Yeah, they are. They are.
They have to be. But so then obviously it was cool. I mean, even though you didn't have the newest of everything, like, and that doesn't matter either, because I mean, there's people that had Nintendos forever and NES forever and just were happy just to have games in the house and stuff. So, I mean, it doesn't matter that you didn't have the newest stuff as long as you had something enjoyable to play. And you said you had a brother. Did you guys play games together, or was he just not as interested in that, or was he the kid that your dad wanted to like be more into sports instead of video games? Were you kind of the only one playing it?
He's 5 years younger, so he did what I did.
Right.
But games were not his thing. He would play to appease me, but I was also kind of a jerk. So I refused to lose.
To your little brother? No.
Oh, I know. But I refused to lose. And so, like we played some seriously awesome games. Like whenever we would play Blades of Steel on the old NES. Mm-hmm. Like we played Blades of Steel all the time. And that was probably legitimately the only game he could beat me in regularly. But after that, it was just pretty much I just crushed him and everything. So whenever I'd be like, "You want to play?" He'd be like, "Sure." It was to appease me, and then inevitably I'd be a jerk about it and I'd be like, "You suck," and he would just be like, "All right, I'm done. I don't want to be mean," So that was that.
Right. I mean, you only want to play with people so long before you start like, I'm just playing just because you can beat my ass. Like, this sucks. I don't want to play if you're just going to keep beating me. Like, I had mentioned it in a previous episode, but like my sisters, they didn't really, I have two sisters. They didn't really play games much. I was really the person in the house that played games the most. But I remember one time my sister was like bored because I used to play the Pokemon trading card game. My sister was just, I don't know why, but for some reason she was bored enough to come ask me, "Hey, how do you play that?" So I showed her how, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to play?" She was like, "Yeah, sure, we can play." And I played a game against her, and I'm flying through because I was like, that was my thing at the time. So I was flying through, did my turn. I'm like, "All right, your turn." And she just looked at me like, okay, draw a card. Like she just was playing because she was bored, and then I would just beat her so fast to the point where she's like, yeah, this is why I didn't ask you to play this. I don't want to do this anymore. She's just like, I don't want to bother anymore. This is stupid. You're just destroying me before I even know what you're even doing. And, you know, I was used to playing with people who were much higher level of players. So I was flying through the turn, and she's like, I don't even understand what you just did. Like, you guys slow. But yeah, that lasted, I think, a weekend. And she's like, all right, I'm done. I'm never asked you to play this game again. So
one of the coolest things, I teach middle school. And so now, cards were a bad thing at schools at one point.
Yeah.
But now with all the other problems that are going on in life, they've backed off cards. So kids play cards at lunch.
Right.
And it's so cool because there are tables that are playing Uno and there are tables that are playing Magic, and they're all awesome. Like,
That's
it's
awesome.
so cool to watch these kids playing games because they're just playing. Like, kids that come in, they don't speak English. And I'm not making a joke. Like, they'll play Uno first. They'll be Spanish speakers. They'll play Uno first. Probably because the name is inviting, but more than anything, the game's really easy. Sure. And it's numbers. Numbers are easy. So my kids will learn and meet each other through playing Uno. But then, like, it's neat because through the course of this school year, I've seen kids go from playing Uno to playing Magic. Now, Magic's not even popular anymore, as far as I know.
Oh,
but
you're about to piss off a bunch of people I know, but that's fine.
Cultural zeitgeist is what I mean.
Fine.
Not necessarily. That's what I mean.
I know. I'm just giving you crap. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Because I have the utmost respect for our Magic friends, but like it is so neat to see kids start graduating and they're learning English by playing Magic. That's awesome. So cool.
That's awesome.
Right. And so, like, to me, watching kids play card games is awesome. I never got into it. I didn't have the patience or the wallet for it. Because I don't know how to shuffle. And I'm not joking with you. I have tried to learn to shuffle so many times. And, like, I'm a pretty good poker player. Yet no one wants to play with the poker player that beats them but can't shuffle. Yeah.
That's like so, like, that would bum me out if somebody beat me and then I saw them try to shuffle. I'm like, this dude just friggin' beat me and he can't even shuffle a deck of cards. I'm out of here. Like, I'd be so upset.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, like, I don't know how we got onto that topic, but in general, it's cool seeing kids play games like card games. I just wish that I wish I could relate on a level that was, I just wish I could relate it on any level really with that because I'm just terrible at it.
Yeah, the whole card game thing. Yeah, back when I was in school, Pokemon cards, because they were, I mean, essentially what it is like, it's just whatever a distraction is, right? So whatever a distraction from learning, they don't want you to have there. Obviously, like when I was in school, things are different now than when kids are in school now because of the internet. But yeah, with card, like people were getting cards taken away. Because we were trading in class, not paying attention. We were just talking about Pokemon cards, showing each other what we just got. And yeah, dude, like people were getting stuff taken away. But yeah, now, you know, again, at least that's something that's, dude, playing Uno at school sounds awesome because it's just something else to do. But yeah, Magic, it's funny because I played Pokemon. I got Pokemon cards just because I was like, I liked Pokemon a lot. And I was like, cool. And then I eventually learned how to play the game. I'm like, oh, this game is interesting. It's, you know, different strategy or whatever. But yeah, then it's like I graduated to play Magic, but I still, around the time I started playing Magic and I have cards and a deck and all that, I just got out of card games completely. But yeah, dude, like there's people out there who, dude, that is their jam. Like I had a buddy, two guys, Jeff and Dito, they played Magic at these tournaments like weekly, and they would be at these tournaments for 7 hours or something. I'm like, dude, are you playing in them? They're like, well, we do, but then when we lose, we just stick around and hang out and watch. I'm like, wow. Like that just, to me, if I lost, I'd be like, I'm out of here. I don't want to stick around. But that's also, yeah, that's their passion. You know what I mean? They don't play games as much because of that. And their passion is Magic cards. So when they just want to stick around and watch the better people play and just learn from them. So, you know, everybody has their own games they play. It's not just video games. It's also card games. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. But if you ever, I'm sure there's a YouTube video if you want to learn how to shuffle or anything. Like, I'm sure there's something out there.
Dude, I've tried so many times. Like, the amount of embarrassing moments I've had where I've had to pick. I've played 52 pickup more than any man should have to play by himself. All right?
Oh, man. It happens. Oh. There are certain people out there, for example, and it's weird, but also I've never given my son any grief for it. So there's just things out there that people have mental blocks over, right? Some people it's games. Some people get certain games and just like, I can't do this. You apparently was shuffling. That happens. My son, riding his bike. I don't know.
No.
I don't know what happened. Okay. My daughter picked up riding a bike from a friend. Like all of a sudden one day my daughter just knew how to ride a bike. I'm like, where did you learn that? She's like, Carmen down the street. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, you're riding a bike. Sure. I've tried to get my son to ride his bike, but again, I'm to a point where you don't have to ride a bike. If it doesn't make you happy to ride a bike, I'm not going to make you. Like, if you don't want to ride a bike, you don't want to. If you ever want to one day, you'll come to me and I'll help you out. It's not a big deal. But there's been moments where I've tried to like push him to ride his bike and like learn how to ride his bike. And he just, for whatever reason, dude, in his head, there's just some mental block. He goes to get on his bike and just can't balance and gets so pissed off. And he's just like, Dad, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, I don't get it. Cause like I rode my bike everywhere. And there's moments where he'll go down to the park to like play Nerf guns with his friends. I'm like, if you knew how to ride a bike, you could get there and back way faster. And he's like, yeah, I know, Dad. But he just, for whatever reason, it's just some block. And hopefully he'll get over it one day. But again, it's just, to me, he knows how to, he runs around. Like he can balance himself. He could do other things, but just getting on a bike, just the concept of it, there's some block in his head that just screws him up. And again, like other people in my family are like, he should know how to ride a bike. I'm like, yeah, but also if he doesn't want to, and I don't, there's no need for him to, why?
Right.
Like, I don't care. Like, I really don't. But other things, I would hope he would want to learn how to like swim, because that's kind of something that could save his life, But like riding a bike, just one of those things. My son playing video games, extremely talented, like such a good gamer. My daughter though, she picked up riding a bike in 2 seconds. So I'm like, all right. And the only thing that bums me out is I'm like, we can go on family bike rides if Alex knew how to ride a bike. I'm like, but it's okay. Again, I'm not going to push him. Again, you don't need to be pushed to learn how to shuffle cards. Who cares? Just get one of those automatic shufflers. That's all you need.
I don't think.
You can't pull that out of like a tournament or something, because people are gonna be like, "Are you for RNA? Like, what is he doing?"
Yeah,
right
that's
now?
true.
We have an automatic card shuffler. Like, my kids may not ever need to know how to shuffle cards. They just have one of those things. Just hit the button, it shuffles it for you. You're good.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll go reinvest, but I think my pride will be hurt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I think honestly, that's what happened with my son. Like, I tried one time, and he's older now. He's 12, and it's just at this point, he probably just feels embarrassed that he can't do it. So he's just like, Dad, I just don't want to. I'm like, all right, man, it's cool. We tried. As long as you try, I can't get upset. Like, if you can't do it, but you at least try and put effort into it, at least that's all I want. I just don't want you to like give up on something because you just think you can't do it when you might be able to. But yeah, some people are like that with games though too, man. Some people get games and they suck at them and they're just like, I'm done. I can't do this. And I'm like, no, just try. But again, you can't make everybody like everything or try everything. So some people have mental blocks. Yeah. Some people think Cuphead's hard. Stop.
It is hard.
It's not.
It is hard.
It's not.
It's hard. You got to parry and you got to jump at the right time. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's just, you have to just get past each stage and then remember how to keep going past each stage. I'm not saying it's not difficult, but like I beat it. And
Mitch, I got to remember how to pay taxes. I can't be putting brain power towards which boss is coming at what time. I'm trying to play this retro game called Hyper Sentinel, and I'm just raging because I can't tell when I'm supposed to be dodging or why the power-ups aren't working. Sometimes the evolution of games being easier is a good thing.
Oh no, believe me, like gaming has gotten considerably easier as years go on. Like, because before there wasn't a tutorial, so especially if you were like an older gamer and you didn't have that instruction manual to tell you what the buttons are or what they could do, you were completely screwed. But no, games are 100% easier now. But you get those games that will challenge your brain. Like, for example, my mental block, and if games like that some people love and adore and I just cannot get over it, are like Dark Souls games. I don't like them. I don't think they're fun. I don't enjoy playing. Like Bloodborne, like I had a PS4, everybody's talking about how awesome Bloodborne is, and I go to play it and I died so quickly and I'm just like, screw this game. I'm done. I don't want to put another minute into this game not enjoying it. The first 30 minutes of the game, I'm like, no, I'm good. And you get those people that are like, Dark Souls is my life. It's the best game, whatever. I'm just like, dude, good for you, man. Cause like, I'm not putting up with this. I'm not going to die over and over and think this is fun.
Right. And that's, I'm in the camp that is a very much minority camp. And I'm in the minority camp on a lot of games. And that's kind of my joke with Adam Leonard, because I give him a hard time about all the things that I like that he doesn't. But like, I enjoyed Lords of the Fallen far more than Dark Souls, Soul anything.
Wow.
Any type of Souls game. But why did I do that? Because it's Dark Souls light. It's easier.
Right.
It's got a barrier to entry that's much more approachable.
Correct.
And frankly, I don't enjoy getting frustrated every 2 seconds because I can't dodge at the exact moment. I'm older now than I was, and I have less time than I used to, even though I don't have children and I don't have...
No, you have kids. You just teach them.
Well, that's true, yes.
I was saying, like, you have a bunch more kids than us. Like, you have to deal with all their school stuff. Like, I just have to make sure my kids are breathing and are fed and they don't die daily. Like, you have to teach... a bunch of kids. Like, you don't have to deal with that part.
You do way more than some parents, so props to you.
Right, there you go.
But all joking aside, like, I with Lords of the Fallen or any game in general, like, sometimes I need a game that I don't have to lose my whole life playing, or learning or anything else. And I don't feel bad about that anymore, whereas I used to. When I was younger, man, solo, legendary, everything. I beat Halo. I mean, I still do that with Halo. But like with many games, it'd be like, I'll beat it on the hardest difficulty because I have nothing else. But now I'm like, I have Game Pass. I got tons of experiences waiting for me. I don't need to play or do anything that's going to take away from other experiences and make me frustrated. That's not something I need.
Well, yeah, when you're gaming, like, I remember back in the day when if a game wasn't like, especially around, I want to say PS1, PS2, 360 era, or not 360 actually, but right, PS1, PS2. If a game wasn't like 40 hours, 50 hours, you were like, this sucks. You know what I mean? And that sucks. Like, now I look at a game that's 40 or 50 hours and I'm like, I need to stay away from that game because there's a lot of stuff for me to play. And I feel if I just play one game with the only thing I'll say is with online games, they're a bit different because I will usually gravitate towards one online game and kind of like hover on that for a while. But like single player games, dude, I'm not going to spend 80 hours playing The Witcher to beat the main story. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I have other things I need to play. And that's how now I feel I need shorter games to beat them, to feel like I accomplished something rather than playing one single player game that long, which is actually why God of War is fun, but also frustrating because it's way longer than I thought it would be. Like, it's way longer than I thought. So I'm playing it and I'm like, all right, cool. I beat this. Let me see how far I am in the game. And I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, there's a lot more to this game. Holy crap. And I'm like,
sure.
Okay, let's just hope. But I have gotten to that point where I do not feel bad. Not saying God of War is this at all, by the way. I don't feel bad if I go so far in a game and I just get to a point where I'm like, I'm done. I'm good. And I just tap out. Like, that's what happened with me with The Witcher. Like, it was fun. It's a great game. It's got great characters, great story, great graphics, great gameplay. It's really fun. But when I played 40 hours of it and I didn't dent anything, I was like, I can't do this, man. I can't keep playing this. I got my idea, my opinion of the game. It's fantastic. It's just not for me. I'm good. I'll just stop. If I really want to know the story, I'll go to YouTube.
I think that's part of our cultural, like our gaming culture right now, is it's all about the difficulty and, what have you done? And we've forgotten the very core mechanic is that games should be fun.
Correct.
That's D2, the Mighty Ducks, if anyone's wondering where that where that quote comes from. No, Gordon, you said it yourself. Games should be fun. And it's true. If you're not having fun with it, you shouldn't be doing it. And like, there is something to be said for that little endorphin kick when you do unlock something that you've been struggling with after dying, or that moment of victory where you feel good. And I think you and I were talking about it, like when we pop that achievement, or somebody follows us on Mixer or streaming or listens to the show or whatnot, you do get that endorphin kick, but at what cost? And if that cost is your full enjoyment of a product, save for one moment, I don't know that that's worth it.
Right. No, like, everybody should be having fun doing the things they're doing because the one thing you can't buy is time, and you don't want to waste time doing dumb things or things like Just Cause 3 is my perfect example. I got that game. for Christmas. I saw the YouTube videos of all the people doing all the crazy things you can do, and I was like, all right, cool, this looks fun. I played it on Xbox One, and that thing ran like crap. Frame rate was terrible. It just sucked. And I chalked it up to, do I force myself to play this game because I got it for Christmas, and I have it, and I started it, or do I not waste my time anymore with this garbage and go play something I'm actually going to have fun with? And like I said, now, especially when you're an adult and you have less time to game and less free time in general, when you have a family and job and responsibilities, the last thing you want to do is sit there and begrudgingly play some game just because you got it or you bought it or you started it. Like, screw that. I'm done. And I traded it in. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to touch this game again. Like, I don't want to sit here and just be pissed off this whole time I'm playing, like, God, this frame rate's garbage. Like, I don't want to do that. So,
and that okay. I have the same experience. And I think sometimes my wallet is what yells at me about it, because like, I bought Just Cause 3. It was $7. That's not some make or break, but I try to be fiscally responsible with games, and that was $7 I could have put towards something else. And I played it for probably 20 minutes, and I was like, I don't get what people like about this. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it's not my cup of tea. And making peace with moments like that, and making peace with, oh, somebody else is totally allowed to enjoy this. It's just not my thing. I think that's maturity.
Right.
And I can't stand when people get mad at somebody else for liking something. And right now, if Adam Leonard listens to this episode, he's like, wait, he gives me such a hard time about Uncharted. That's right. That's right, I do. And I do it for my personal enjoyment.
That's his troll, people. He just likes to crap on Uncharted.
Yeah, just because of Adam, and I love Adam, but it's so funny because he loves Uncharted, and I have not a painting. Some of Adam's artwork is literally on my wall of Uncharted 4, and I love it. He signed it and everything. But I just love teasing him about it. But the reality is, I don't care what other people like. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. If it doesn't take away from others, rock on. Games are games, and it doesn't matter where you play them or what you do about them. Just enjoy them. Except Uncharted. And everybody tweet Adam that Uncharted is totally not as good as Tomb Raider. Yep, that's the only thing you really need to do is remember that Tomb Raider is better than Uncharted.
I'll make sure I put that in the show notes so that way everybody knows.
Thanks.
There we go.
I appreciate it.
No, but
right.
like the other thing too is funny is because you think about it this way is like the financial thing of it, right? As an adult, you're like, man, that sucks. You quote unquote wasted money. In your opinion, you wasted money. You're like, this sucks.
Right.
But back in the day, it wasn't even like I wasted money. It's like I wasted a birthday gift. Like, I wasted a movie rental, like, or a game rental for the weekend. Like, that's where it sucks. Like, cause you didn't have the option to just go, oh, well, let's go buy another one. It's like, hey, for Christmas, you get a game or two, and you better not screw this up. Like, you better pick out something that's awesome. And, yeah, man, sometimes poor decisions got made, and you were sad for a good 6 months. You're like, oh, I'm stuck with this. This sucks.
And I recently had an experience very much like that. I just beat Far Cry 5. As a wedding gift, my wife got me the gold edition. Because like, I don't buy games new very often.
Okay.
I just don't. It's very rare. Like if it's Halo or Gears or like one of my games, yeah, I'll do that. But usually I wait for a sale because, I'm a teacher. I don't push that wallet and, I got it right or wrong.
I'm right there with you. I got games to play. I don't need to buy this right away. I'll wait for it to be on sale. Absolutely.
Right.
Because we're responsible adults. Go on.
Sure, yeah, that's one way to put it. But like I'm playing Far Cry 5 and there are some things in Far Cry 5 that are so fun. But every time I'm having fun with Far Cry 5 ruins it for me by hitting me with what the game calls Bliss, which to anyone who doesn't play it makes you stoned in the game. And reality is kind of altered. And so every time I'm having fun, the game takes that away from me. And so I'm having to make peace with this, but also like evaluate my own realistic expectations. Like, am I enjoying Far Cry 5 right now? And then the ending is controversial for anyone that hasn't played it, and I will not spoil it for you.
Thank you, but I'm not there yet.
No problem. All I will tell you is that it makes you question your experiences with the game, which is when you half the game is you being stoned, is a normal expectation for that game to do anyway. So I don't know if I had fun with Far Cry 5, but I'm really excited for the DLC because I got the gold edition and it takes you to Vietnam and then to Mars and then it's got some zombie elements. That's kind of cool. Far Cry 5 Arcade is really deep and it's got a whole depth to it, but I don't know if I had fun with the game, and that's weird.
Yeah,
that's really weird.
Yeah, some games are like that. I mean, I'm trying to think if a game has done that for me before, because, I mean, there's certain games, like, sometimes I'll get to a point where I finish a game, but again, as I've gotten older and as my time has gotten shorter with games and stuff, if I recognize quickly enough a game just isn't doing it for me, I'll just stop. Like, I won't get usually to the end where I get to the end and go, huh.
Right.
Okay. I'm trying to think of, like, any games that have personally done that for me. I mean, there's been things I've been disappointed with playing them. And again, people may say differently now, but Halo 5 single player, I just was so bummed. I really was. Like, marketing for that game was incredible. It was so good. The commercials leading up to it, the podcast that they had, like it was so
Hunt
good.
the Truth, yeah.
So good. And then I just felt like it fell flat, and I was just like, I don't know about that. Now, I played the Halo 5 multiplayer for 700-800 hours or whatever, so obviously I enjoyed the game, but like, I think that was the last one where, again, I wasn't mad, but I was just like, was that actually fun, or did I just play it because it was Halo? Did I just play it because of the marketing? Was I expecting it to get better? And then I just played it, I was like, it was okay, I guess. Like, the ending was weird.
Right.
Locke still isn't that cool of a character, and I don't know. That's probably the last one I felt like that was. But like I said, and also I'm a huge Halo fan as well, so of course I wanted to get the story. Some people have told me they've revisited it after all of the stuff died down, after not thinking about the campaign or the marketing or Hunt the Truth or any of those things, and just went at it again as like a game. Just like and some people have actually said that they've gotten a better experience out of it. Like, oh, Halo 5 campaign isn't as terrible as what people said. I personally haven't done that yet. Okay. Yeah, because I personally haven't done that yet.
I'm like you, super Halo fan. Like, my walls are adorned with Halo art. I was a Halo Legendary Loot Crate person for a while.
Shout out to so was I.
Yeah.
I know someone else now. Awesome.
But yeah, diehard Halo. I really enjoyed Halo 5's campaign, but it's absolutely not what we were promised. And so that is a justifiable complaint. But as a standalone or as a game, yeah, it's fine. It's a game. It's a good game. It's a shooting game.
The gameplay of it was fantastic. Like, the gameplay, Halo, the gameplay of it's fun. It's just that story and like how it didn't seem to match with how they marketed it. And
that's because the Prometheans are weird.
Yeah, they are.
Like, they're not a good enemy. They're just not. And they're down this path that they need to wrap up. And what they've done with Cortana is just, it's weird. It's just weird. And that it's hard. How do you write yourself out of that?
Right.
You need smaller stories. You've gotten too big. Because I read all the novels too. The stories are too big. It's just too big right now. You need smaller stories. ODST style.
That'd be
what's
fun.
the Fireteam Raven?
Yeah.
Fireteam Raven, the arcade game. That looks cool. For what it is, mind you. So, you need small stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Like, just once we get there, we'll get there, and there'll be something there for us.
Right. I wouldn't mind going back and playing the campaign again. It's just, like I said, I think it was just that sour taste. Also, too, I try not to let other people's opinions of things influence me. I try not to go online and like, I'm actually one of those people where I go on media blackout on stuff. Like, if I see a game and I'm like, that's cool, I don't want to see anything until it's out. I don't want to hear a review, a preview, a YouTube video, a trailer, nothing. I will just play this when it comes out and, hope I enjoy it. Everyone crapped on Halo 5's campaign, like, when it came out. Like, hardcore.
Well, they were
Halo
lied
fans.
to.
Yeah, essentially.
It came from a place of hurt, what I mean?
Because that's kind of where I was like, man, like, I try not to let it affect me. I wanted to get the game, and when the reviews were coming out, and people were like, "That campaign, oof." I'm like, what?
And I think also there's the reality that, like, our generation, Halo was this big thing,
right?
And then everything post Modern Warfare, Halo's less and less a thing, and there's a pain that comes with that and I think all of us and most people that are probably listening to this particular show, they're amongst a group that they don't they have to acknowledge that what they thought was the coolest thing ever doesn't appeal to the masses in the same way anymore. The reason Mario is still relevant is because every new iteration of Mario is just that. It's new. Galaxy is very different than Odyssey. They have the same DNA, but it's very different than Super Mario World and Super Mario Brothers. And so Mario is a unique example, but beyond that, I mean, Breath of the Wild reinvented, God of War reinvented, but those are recent examples, and those franchises were at atrophied well before. If you look at Zelda sales, they were very low by comparison to Breath of the Wild.
Sure.
And that's just a reality. When we get mad at stuff like that, it comes from a place of love, and what hurts you the most, the things you love.
Of course.
You know?
I mean, nostalgia will play tricks on your brain to thinking, man, this was a good game, this should come back, or, you know, like, this is what I enjoyed back then, and, you know, they want certain games to come back, but then they go back and play them, and they're like, yeah, never mind, I shouldn't do that. Like, I personally, with games like Crash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crash Bandicoot's not that amazing of a game. Now, I know people may get upset by hearing that, but also it depends on what you consider. Like, again, if that's your nostalgia, if that's the first games you remember playing, then of course you're going to have a special place in your heart for them, and they're going to be good no matter what. But objectively, if you go look at certain games, you're just like, man, some of these games are good and should be brought back, and then some aren't. But there's a lot of people, like, again, the crazy thing is, the only thing that scares me is I worried about this with my own kids. Like, are they going to think the games I played are trash? Like, are they just going to think the games I played are old school, or just they suck and they're not good? And I you know, there's parents out there that are like, you should start them on Nintendo games first. And then go, I'm like, no, because you don't want to have that weird kid who's like, all their friends are playing new stuff, and you're like, what are you playing? Mario 3? Like, you don't want to do that to your kid. But at least I will say, though, I'm happy that my kids have gotten to a point where my son, for example, wanted to play BioShock. And I'm like, my son's mature. I know he's a good kid. He's not going to do it. I'm like, sure, you can play it. And he comes downstairs and he's like, Dad, BioShock's awesome. And he's, you know, just talking about how good these games are. But then there's other games that he'll play. Like, he played Mario World. And he's like, Dad, this game's amazing. I'm like, yeah, this is what I played when I was younger. This is, you know, this is good stuff. So, I mean, it's all a matter of perspective of, like, you going back and, like, looking at games. But some people have that, just those blind eyes, like, oh, man, you know, this game's good. No, it's not, man. Like, I played garbage games back in the day, and I will admit it. Like, I played some games that are just trash. And the only thing is, hopefully, just, you know, especially with the whole, you have that memory of a game and you don't want it to go downhill and you don't want it to be like that. I don't think, like, the thing for me, though, is that Halo 5's multiplayer was the most fun I had with a Halo game ever. Ever. I had Halo 1, 2, 3, all of those. I played them all online. Halo 5's multiplayer was the best version of Halo I've ever played. It was amazing. And then that single player was just like, it's okay. Hopefully they'll get back to it, though. Hopefully.
You know, while not a retro game, like, there are, again, my shtick with messing with a few people on Twitter, I don't particularly like Last of Us. That was a masterpiece of a game that I do not want to go back to for a lot of reasons. That was a depressing game. I had no fun with The Last of Us.
Yeah, it's real sad.
Right. I didn't have any fun with it. I don't want to go back to that, but it's an absolute masterpiece. And so, you know, nostalgia sometimes taints our memories, but also sometimes we have a memory that's so pure that it doesn't need to be changed or altered. I would not go back and play The Last of Us again because I did have that amazing experience. That was a gameplay masterpiece at its time. I don't think it ages that well compared to some of the newer stuff. You know, like, why can't I walk on the wall? Or run up the wall, I suppose. That is what I mean to say, from, like, Breath of the Wild when I play some open world games and stuff.
Right.
So sometimes modern enhancements of games can ruin old things for us, but that is life. Yeah. That is just life. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Can you imagine being a child that grew up in the PlayStation 1 and 64 era? Like, Wind Waker's not that good. It's just not. I mean, it's got some great nostalgia. I love it, but in a post Breath of the Wild world, it just doesn't hold up. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledgement of that. But we grew up on these 2D sprite games that are just incredible. And they age very well. There are plenty of other games that don't.
Anything from the PS1 era. Sorry.
Right.
Anything from the PS1 era ages so poorly just because those graphics they're just terrible compared to what you have now. And that's the only thing that's, like, unfair. Because some games, story-wise, are so good from PlayStation 1 era, but then you go back and play them, you're like, dude, ooh, man. Just looking at the game will, like, mess with you.
And I think Final Fantasy is a great example of that. Final Fantasy has a contingent of fans that are just ecstatic about those old games. Every time I look at them or try to think, oh, I should play that or be interested in that, because that's a gaming gap for me. I never got into Final Fantasy just by way of timing and what was available to me. Well, every time I look at, like, what is it, 7, I think is the one that's probably most revered.
Yeah, everybody tends to love 7.
Yeah, every time I look at a video of that or a conversation that includes that, meh. I get a whole lot of meh on that one. Right. And that's not the fault of the game. That's the time period, the era. There's a lot of factors that are involved there because the mechanics have evolved from that.
Well, also, too, like, that's the problem is, like, I've mentioned this before as well. I didn't have a 64. I had PlayStation growing up. So when people talk about GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and how much fun they had with them, I don't have an opinion. Now, I'm not saying it's trash. I just didn't have an opinion. But then somebody's like, you should go play, Perfect Dark. And I remember when it came to Xbox, they were like, we're adding online play. I'm like, cool. Everyone and their mother has talked about how good this game is. And I played it and I was like, this game is trash. Now, I'm formulating a trash opinion because I didn't play it back then. I didn't have the knowledge of, like, all these good memories or the graphics looking amazing at the time. I'm basing it off of every modern shooter I've played since then. And it's complete trash compared to that. But again, that's not saying that's a bad game. It's just, in my opinion, from what I've done, it's a bad game. Yeah, if people... that's what sucked. Breath of the Wild ruined Horizon for people. And that sucks, dude. It
ruined it for me.
Like,
I have Horizon sitting on my shelf, and I am so disinterested in that game because of Breath of the Wild.
I'm sorry. I liked Horizon better.
But that's awesome. Good. But that game deserves its audience.
It does, but it's just crazy because, like, some people will say, like, that's the best. I think it's just, again, the way, in the order you play games will mess with you, right? In the order I played games, I played Horizon first, then I played Breath of the Wild. If you played it the opposite way, it's gonna screw with you. Not to mention, they came out so close to one another, that didn't help anything. Like, they came out, and, like, it was a 2-week gap or something. I'm like, hopefully you can beat Horizon in 2 weeks because Zelda's going to come out. But yeah, dude, like, Zelda's messed with people now. And again, good modern mechanics and shooting have messed Perfect Dark for me up because I go back and play Perfect Dark. I'm like, dude, this game's just not good. It's just not. I'm sorry. And let alone trying to figure it out to play that thing on an N64 controller, I would have probably hated myself. Like, I'm just like, man, dude, I can't get over this game. I can't play this and enjoy this. But other people, and that's what they did.
You mentioned the 64, and that's a great example because right now everyone in our gaming community is wondering what Nintendo has for E3 and what's going to go on with their directs and whatnot. And now a lot of people speculate on a Nintendo 64 Classic, which I don't think they should do. They don't need that. They do not need that. But that controller and the Wii controller and the Wii U controller, they lock amazing experiences away that you can't get back to. GoldenEye is a good example of that. Without that controller in your hands, GoldenEye doesn't work. Yeah. It just doesn't. It doesn't. It's a shame. Also, the game does not age well for a number of 3D reasons and level design reasons, but that's typical. Plus, a Nintendo 64 Classic would be a huge waste of plastic. The amount of plastic on that system that they wasted would be a huge financial sink for Nintendo.
I think the Wii is the harder one because motion controls were so embedded. Like the 64, I think they could get away with doing a 64 with a regular controller because it's not like nothing on a regular controller wasn't on a 64 controller. It's just laid out differently, right? So in your brain, you might just have to adjust how you do it, but they could also modernize some of the controls for some of the games to make it work. Wii and Wii U with the motion, you're screwed. Like that's where you're going to start running into crap where like, if Nintendo wants to continue to do virtual console / remakes or whatever, they have to basically include motion in all their controllers or they're going to screw themselves with the Wii, like all the Wii selection. So, the 64, I don't think the 64 Classic should happen because there's not enough good games to put on it that are available license-wise. I've mentioned that before, like, a lot of people's best gaming memories on that system are games that are licensed to other companies. Sorry. Like, GoldenEye, you're not going to get that on a 64 Classic. Perfect Dark, if Microsoft's cool to let you have it, maybe. Which they would be. They would be.
I
think they would be too. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think, like, all of your, Banjo, Jet Force Gemini, yeah, Nintendo has their staples, but also too, how many incredible first-party titles were on the 64 that would make them make enough games to make that system happen. All their third-party support disappeared with the 64. Like, it all went to PlayStation. Square went to play. Look at the SNES Classic. What do you have? Final Fantasy games, Super Mario RPG. You have like all these awesome third-party games, and where was all that during the 64 era? It didn't really exist. Like, all the third-party games that were awesome are all now a license nightmare. Like, you're just not going to get it. So if they figure it out, cool. But again, that's the controller. Is it going to throw people off because of how that controller is now? You know what I mean? There's just a lot of weird things. I think it would be better for them just to do the whole virtual console route and just make it retcon with whatever controllers that they have now. Just do that. But it's okay. I've heard people try to argue, no, there's enough good games. I'm like, get me a list of 30. Give me a list of 30 games that aren't licensed nightmares, and we'll talk. But I don't think they can.
Yeah. And one of the things that I so amusedly think is how many people credit Nintendo with having some master plan, and I strongly feel they have no idea what they're doing. The Switch is incredible. I love my Switch. I had a blast with some of those Wii U games, and I'm very glad that they're actually hitting on Switch. I think
they should.
Yeah,
they have no that system sold 13 million copies, and they had good games on there, but nobody played them. Good for Nintendo to just go, hey, add deluxe to the title, add all the DLC, make it 1080p, resell them, and make all the money back they should have gotten when it first came out. Good for you guys.
Right. And props to them. Every move they've done well, they've got 2 or 3 moves that are boneheaded. And so I think...
You mean that online service?
Oh, that's one of them. One of the many. But I don't think Nintendo has any master plan. But I also think we live in a completely free market, and it's completely okay to vote with your wallet. And if they do something great, support it. And if not, don't. And I thoroughly enjoy my Switch. I love buying stuff on it. When I feel Nintendo treats me well, I totally support it. And when they don't, I don't. But it just bothers me when I see so many nostalgic people allow Nintendo to get away with things that no other company would be able to get away with.
Right.
Like, if Sony had made similar decisions, they would absolutely be crucified, and rightfully so.
Dude, if Microsoft sneezes wrong, they get called idiots. And yeah. So
and they made that bed, and I've kind of accidentally become branded as an Xbox guy just by way of enjoying Mixer and enjoying my Xbox One so much of late.
Right.
But I play everything, and Microsoft made that bed when Don Mattrick walked out there with his used car salesman smile, and Terry Myerson behind the scenes telling everybody that we needed to be on Windows 8 because Windows 8 was struggling. That's why the Xbox One had all those snap features and whatnot. But yeah, before Phil Spencer took over, Microsoft built the bed that they are now lying in.
Right.
However, no one's allowing them to get up, and that's an interesting but frustrating thing.
Yes.
But yeah, Nintendo. Back to my original point, Nintendo's nostalgia goggles allow them to get away with so much.
100%.
It's so strange. We have an entire podcast dedicated to Nintendo still. Not the new stuff, the old stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? The 3DS is garbage. Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, kill that thing. Just start pumping out Switch stuff. The fact that the fact that my wife got so bummed. Mario Party, the best 100 or whatever, when she heard about it, because she's a big Mario Party fan, she's like, that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, it's on 3DS. She's like, why? She got so mad. She's like, why? She goes, if that was on Switch, we could all play. I'm like, yeah, you're right. We could all play.
Yeah.
Nah, they're going to do it on 3DS. But again, I don't put it past, at least Nintendo got the hint with like Captain Toad. They're like, hey, let's put it on both. Hey, let's put these on both. Like, if you're going to do both, I don't care. Just do both. Like, give us an option, but that's all right. And the other thing too is like that brand loyalty for me didn't even exist until I'm not going to say like, do I love my Xbox? Yes. Right? Do I play majority of the stuff on the Xbox? Yes. But I have a PS4, I have a Switch, because I feel if you don't own all of it, how can you say you're experiencing all of the best things that gaming has to offer?
Right.
You can't just have one console now. And that was around like PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube era, where if you didn't start having multiples, you were missing out. But
yeah, I got to play Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
Wherever Rogue Squadron goes, I will be.
I have to play Smash Brothers, and I can't do that on an Xbox. So I think that, like, you have to have that kind of thing. But, like, when I was younger, I had an NES, then I had a Genesis, then I had a PlayStation. Like, I didn't give a damn about any brand loyalty. I was just like, I just want to play whatever's popular and what my friends have, and that's exactly what I did. So were you, because you said you said N64, so SNES, N64, did you continue down the Nintendo route, or did you, because you said you got to a point where you got old enough to buy your own quote-unquote toys, as your dad would put it?
So I was a PS1 guy.
Okay.
PS1, and then I borrowed 64, and then I kind of, like many of us, went back and got one way later and enjoyed 64 that way. I forgot the question.
Like, where did you go after, like, at 64 and stuff? Did you go play PlayStation? Well, you said you got PlayStation, but did you have any brand, like, did you prefer one console going forward, or did you kind of mix and match going forward?
Gotcha. The only so I went PlayStation 1 and then PlayStation 2, and then in between there was a Dreamcast,
right?
Which I loved. I got that. I was a freshman in high school. There was a senior at our high school, and like, I didn't understand that paying for something that you were supporting it. At the time, I just didn't quite understand that. So, like, he gave me he sold me his Dreamcast and about 400 games.
Oh my god!
And they were all burned. You know what I mean? But I didn't recognize this
allegedly
at the time.
Allegedly, it was burned.
Yeah, dude, it was just funny because I would never do that now, and that's because I believe in paying for stuff. That's a different subject. I'm sorry. So I went PS1 to PS2 with Dreamcast in between, but really that was my evolution. And then from PS2. By then I was pretty steady into college in 2004, and then you could have everything. So I played on my GameCube, and I played at plenty of other places. And then when it was 360, I sold Plasma to get a 360.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And Microsoft appreciates that. Holy crap!
Yeah, I know. Then I had PS3 in the 6 months leading up to PS4, I had a PS3, and by then Xbox had burned me, and I was like, all right, I'm going PS4. I was PS4 at launch, and then Xbox One, when Master Chief Collection came out, I got an Xbox One, and then went S to X, and I still have it. I have a PS4 Slim and a Switch.
Yeah, so I mean, like, now, and that's the other thing too, is like, did you, because as obviously you get older, you have more disposable income, you're able to just kind of buy whatever you want. You know what I mean? As within reason.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing too, is that you were kind of had to make that big decision back then, and now you kind of just have the freedom to make whatever decisions you want. Did you ever come across a time when you weren't playing games as much? Like, or you stopped playing games?
I've heard you ask this on your other podcasts, because I did my research. There was probably a month and a half period in college where, because I was a good student in college, not prior to that, but in college I was a good student. And there was probably a month and a half period where I was just overwhelmed. I was studying for my black belts, I was studying for my degrees, but concentrations, and I was taking on a workload that I couldn't handle. I just wasn't mature enough to handle what I had taken on. So I remember vividly wrapping the cables to my PS2 and to my 360, and to my GameCube, all three. They came out of my entertainment console in my dorm room, and I put them up on top of the closet thingamabobber, because it's a dorm room. And I put them away for about a month and a half. And I don't feel that I lost anything in that time period, but I am a gamer. I have always been a gamer at heart. That is part of who I am. I'm 32 now. My beautiful and amazing wife, I told her when we started dating, I was like, this is just who I am. And like, some adults or some people don't think that's an okay thing to be at our age and as we grow older, but that's what I like. And I will always like that more than going to concerts or going to be out with a bunch of friends at a bar or anything like that. I like games. And so they went away for a little bit, but the reality is it's who I am, and that's what I like.
So a solid 45 days in your entire lifetime.
I think so.
Gotcha.
I think you could probably something like that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. No, some people disappear because, like, obviously, like you said, obligations happen, right? So some people disappear, or other hobbies pick up. And I'm surprised with like how much you were into soccer and stuff that still didn't take over as much and everything. Because, I mean, I fell in love with skateboarding, and I couldn't do anything besides skateboard. Like, I couldn't think about doing anything with my free time besides skateboard. And I had, like, a 4-year gap where I just didn't give a shit about games. I just didn't care. I was just like, okay, cool. PlayStation 2's out, whatever. I'm going to go skateboard now. Like, that's
when that could have happened. That could have happened, but right around that time, I was in an HTML coding class, and my buddy was 2 years younger than me. I was a senior. No, I was a junior, and he was a freshman. And whenever we finished coding our websites, he would pull out his Game Boy Advance and play Pokemon, and I was like, what's that? And then Pokemon just got me. Because, like, it's just an addicting gameplay loop, and I started playing that. And then what can you do with the Game Boy Advance? You can put it in your pocket and take it with you on the road.
Yep.
So Mom would drive, and I had my feet up on on the console of the car, and I would play my Game Boy. There you go. That's why that never went away.
Yeah, there was a time when, like, that was more of a focus of mine, was Pokemon just in general. Like, you know, Game Boy, and I wasn't playing as much on the home console stuff because I was just playing Pokemon on Game Boy and Game Boy Color and then Advance, and the trading card game. Like, Pokemon took over a huge chunk of my life for a good number of years. But yeah, I mean, that was the other thing too, is like changing over from Game Boy, because like you said, you could take it in the car. You know, the only thing is you had to make sure you had the Game Boy with the lights, or you were just screwed. Because of course you can't drive in the car with a light on, because Mom will yell at you and say, turn that damn light off. Or you had the Frankenstein Game Boy that had like 900 accessories, including the magnifier and the light. And then thankfully, you know, Nintendo wised up and put a light in their own consoles. For God's sakes, thank you. Because those late night car rides without a light were almost impossible to do, but you know, thankfully Nintendo wised up and everything. So yeah, and also too, the whole gaming, like my wife, her brother had been playing games for so long. Her brother owned his own game store, like separate from, like, not like it's not like he worked at a GameStop. He like owned his own video game store. So, I mean, there's certain adults out there who think it's not, I think now it's becoming more acceptable, just because, like I said, it's not like the generation where your dad's just like, video games aren't fun, going outside's more fun. Like, and some people still feel that way, right? But I think it's just become a lot more of an acceptance now, just because so many people are gamers, even if they don't realize it. Like, some people play Words with Friends on their phones, and like, I'm sorry, but that's a video game. You're playing a video game. It might be Scrabble, which is a board game, but you're playing it in a video game form. That's a video game.
Sure.
I'm sorry. So, I mean, now I think it's gotten better. But yeah, my wife, it's all a matter of perspective. I always tell my wife, hey, would you rather me play video games or be addicted to meth? Like, which one would you prefer? So, you know, you just got to look at the pros and cons. Like, you know.
And I think it's the onus is on us. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think the onus is on us as role models, parents, teachers, whomever. When you choose a lifestyle, whatever that lifestyle is, balance is key. I'm a huge gamer. That's what I prefer. I don't even like getting sweaty anymore. But I see to it that I go
sweaty. I just don't enjoy it.
Oh yeah, it's gross. But all joking aside, like, I take my dog for regular walks. I get out. I make sure that while I do get a little squishy sometimes because I love my cookies, I'm also eating bananas. I'm drinking water. I'm not having a beer every 2 seconds or a ginger ale every 2 seconds. I'm enjoying diversity in my day and in my lifestyle, and that's being a role model. You know, teach your kids, teach your students, whomever it is. You know, be a gamer, rock on, be a soccer player, be a football player, be a martial artist, but have diversity. Pick up a book every now and again.
Right.
Go watch a television episode of something different just to diversify yourself. And that is what I often try to do, because I will always play games. But you know, maybe I need to go watch an episode of something with my wife that she likes to see if I like it. You know?
Of course.
Those are all important.
Yeah, I mean, especially, well, I mean, again, like, some people, even when they're single, they will stick to just one thing and do one thing, and if that works for you, good for you, man. I try to encourage my kids, like, to go out and do things. Like, there are moments where I'm like, leave the house, please. And it's not even a matter of, like, I don't even care if you leave the house to go to your friend's house to play games there. I just want you to go socialize and interact and be outside and move and do something. Like, just doing something. And again, my kids are obviously huge gamers because of me directly. Like, they had access to any game they wanted, basically, because I had all the game consoles. So it's no surprise that my kids are gamers. But also, I just try to make sure I tell them, look, like, have some other interest, just do something else, and you'll be perfectly fine. But, you know, even my wife now, like, yes, I do this podcast. I skateboard occasionally, but my number one thing is still playing games. But also, too, yeah, it's just about the balance. Like, hey, you can do all these things, but make sure other people in your life are good as well. Make sure that it's not just you doing these things. But yeah, that's the only problem with, like, my son, especially with school being out. My son's like, cool, I can play games now all day. I'm like, well, yeah. You know, the only thing, though, now is thanks Microsoft for family settings, because now I can restrict a ton of stuff. So they can't play games all day, even if they tried. I'm like, yeah, you got this many hours. Oh, you want more time? Oh, you have to go do something else. Like, go out of the house and go do something else. So, yeah, back then, like, parents would just yell at you. Get out of the house. Go do something.
Right.
Don't just
streetlights.
Yes, the streetlight rule. The only thing that's frustrating to me is that lately I guess here's the thing. It's different in Arizona, right? Because it's hot as hell here. And
it's a dry heat. It's dry.
No. So it is, right? And believe me, I would rather deal with 95 here than 95 in Illinois. That's disgusting. Like, that's a humid, hot, sticky mess. No, thank you. But here, it's just so hot to the point where it's like going outdoors in this is just insane. Like, it's really hot. So it's funny because, like, now during the summertime here, I'm almost more like, hey, stay inside until at least like this time, then go outside and play. Whereas Illinois in the summer, it was the exact opposite. Like, no, it's gorgeous outside. Go outside and play. It was the winter time in Illinois where you were like, all right, it's kind of freezing outside. You can stay inside. Here in winter time, I'm like, no, get out of the house. It's like 80 degrees. It's gorgeous outside. Please get out of the house when it's December here, because I don't have to deal with snow or rain or any of that other awful things that, you know, prohibit things from fun times in your life. So, yeah, I used to live in Illinois, dude. I can't do it anymore. I told my father-in-law, like, I'm never leaving Arizona ever. Like, it's really nice. Yeah, and I get it's hot, but also I don't have to see that cold stuff anymore. Like, I don't ever want to see it again. Like, when it rains here, I get mad. I'm like, rain. I don't want to deal with rain. Rain's stupid. Rain makes people, they lose all ability to drive or function. Like, it's just kind of dumb, but that's okay.
I'm weird because I've always enjoyed weather in almost any fashion. Anything that's kind of like different than the standard, I've always kind of liked it just because it's different than the standard.
That's true.
I'm weird.
It depends. Well, no, it just depends on, again, your hobbies. Example, when it rains or it's snowing outside, you can't go skateboarding. So I have that, like, disdain for, like, you know, I plan a skateboard trip a week, 2 weeks ahead of time because my buddies have to get off work and we have to make sure nobody's hanging out with their families. So we all plan this trip to a skate park and then it rains. And you're just like, well, rain can go to hell because I don't like rain. And that's kind of what, like, when I heard the appeal of, like, Arizona, I was like, it doesn't rain. And that was when I was still skateboarding more. Obviously, I'm not as much anymore, but still, I'm like, no rain to, like, ruin camping trips or skateboarding or anything. Like, yeah, that sounds way fun. But, you know, there are times where snow is like, I want my kids to experience snow, but I don't want them living in it, like driving in it. That stuff's not fun. That's all right. Everybody has their own things, though. So, do you still play soccer, or is, like, now gaming your number one thing that you do?
Gaming is my number one thing. I had some pretty rough injuries that kept me from playing soccer, but now also in my area there's not a lot of adult available soccer, and I was coaching. I don't know if I did mention, I believe, that I'm a teacher. I was coaching our school team as well, but the reality is we're so undercompensated, and I really wanted to hang out with my wife or play with my Xbox or my dog, that I could not handle being a coach and a teacher and a boyfriend, husband, and a dog dad and a gamer. Yeah. And one of those things had to go, and I chose it to be coaching because whilst coaching was awesome, I wasn't getting to play.
Sure.
And I didn't get enough, like, emotional, mental downtime to be Luke instead of Mr. Lohr. So I need to be Luke Lohr.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I just know he's Luke Lohr, and then like, oh yeah, the teacher side, Mr. Lohr. Got it.
Yeah. In our gaming verse, I'm either Luke Lohr or Luke or Ghost, and cool, no problem. That's what I like being. But yeah, during the week it's Mr. Lohr, and that's cool. I love them too. I have the best kids in the world. I'm so lucky there. But sometimes you can't be needed all day. And that's why I tip of the hat to you for being a dad, because I'm needed all day and I could not come home to be needed again.
Yeah, I mean, being a dad and stuff, I mean, that has to change everything about you. Like, there's no way to not be, like, all of a sudden you brought something in this world, you kind of have to be responsible for it and stuff. But yeah, now that was the thing with me, is like, I was almost, in a way, I was doing the same things over and over, and I got to a point where, like, I needed to do something different, which is actually why I started this podcast. I used to have skateboarding, I used to have video games, time with the wife. Also, you lose once you have kids, because now you have another person that you have to spend that time with. So It's just, I got to a point where I was going crazy because, I had gaming. I was trying to get back into skateboarding. But again, like, when I mean skateboarding, I mean by myself skateboarding, not like taking my kids to the skate park and also making sure that no idiots hit them. Like, I was like, that thing for me and everything, because obviously now, especially when you have more than one kid, which I don't know why people do it. I'm just kidding. But you have all that time you have to separate out and everything. And then that's when I got to a point where I was like, I need something else that I can do that works within something I have a commonality with, that I can do with the family, that I have the freedom to do from anywhere, basically. And that's why I started this show, because it's another outlet that I have now that I can do. And, some people it's gaming, some like you've been streaming more, which is awesome. Like, that's a new thing for you. So again, we discussed it earlier, as long as we don't treat it like a job and we still have fun doing it, then we're going to be fine. So. Right.
And that's the thing. As long as it's not work. And that's what we often confuse our play with sometimes. And work and play, in order for you to be mentally healthy, you've got to diversify that. And that's a lesson that is, I think, painful for some of us to remember, including me. Like, I struggle to remember that sometimes. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this for the right reasons right now. And when it becomes work, I have to take a step back and be like, all right, why am I upset that this is not happening, or that's working well or not working well? And that's when you reevaluate. And those moments of clarity are poignant and helpful.
And it's not a bad thing to want to be successful and everything. You just can't let it take over your life. That's all.
Exactly.
Like, you just have to make sure, like, there's no problem. There's not a bad thing with you wanting as many followers and trying to get, reach out to as much of an audience, and having people enjoy your content. There's no problem with that. But as long as it doesn't just take over the happiness of it. So you're good. I mean, you're going to hit 100 followers by August. I have faith in you.
I hope so. That's the goal.
Especially after our awesome E3 watch along with Sean Capri. Like,
when you've got Sean Capri in your corner.
I know. Right? Sean Capri, he's such a gentleman. He could send out a tweet and we could all have 1,000 followers. I don't believe that.
It's true.
It could happen.
It's true. He and Dave Moore are such a funny combination.
Right.
I love hearing them on the Xbox Drive. That is one of my favorite Thursday morning podcasts about Xbox whilst driving to work that somebody could record.
Yeah.
But I so enjoy them because, like, Dave plays this curmudgeon-y, frustrated gamer who hates PlayStation, and Sean plays this, like, voice of reason. But then at the same time, Dave's got these jokes that are so funny.
Right.
They're so funny. Like he was joking on me because I go to bed so early, and he's so right. But the timing and the way that he asks it and says it is so perfect. So I love when they're together. I love it. It's so much fun.
That's actually become one of my favorite shows too. And I love when anytime Sean just starts saying the word PlayStation, it just gets edited. Just boom, boom. Like, they just edit it out. He just says, he doesn't care. He's like, no, we're not talking about this right now.
With the old Windows error sound, which is even funnier.
It's so good. So good. Well, if people wanted to check you out on the Twitters and the Mixers and all those things, where would they check you out at?
All right. So on Twitter, it's at MLS Reserves. Because I'm bad at branding, apparently. And my gamer tag, which is the same thing as my Mixer, is Insipid Ghost. And when people follow me on there, it's like this huge, like, emotional warm fuzzy whenever people follow me. So, you can always go check VODs, make sure if I'm your flavor, then come check it out. Mixer.com/Insipid Ghost.
And I'll also have links in the show notes for all of the above, so if you want to check them out in any of those things, you could definitely do that too. Dude.
Oh, and tweet Adam Leonard that Tomb Raider is awesome.
Yeah, do that. Just flood his feed with, by the way, Tomb Raider's way better than Uncharted. Which, by the way, The newer Tomb Raiders, I would agree.
Yeah, me too.
I would agree. Not saying Uncharted's bad, but I just had a little bit more fun with Tomb Raider. So I'll send him that tweet like right now. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for being my new Xbox buddy, because I need more of those people in my life. So fun stuff.
Yeah, dude. It's been awesome. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. All right, and again, thank you, Luke, for being on the show. If you guys want to follow him on Twitter, go ahead and follow him at MLS Reserves. You can also find him on PlayStation, Xbox Live, and also on Mixer, at Insipid Ghost. I know he was doing a very big push for Mixer. He was trying to get a goal of 100 followers by August, which he actually just recently hit this past week, so big congratulations to him. Also, too, June 10th, which is going to be the Sunday after this episode goes live, will be the Xbox E3 show. Me, Luke, Dave, and Sean, who all did that episode of We the Gamercast for the predictions, we are going to be watching the show live. So if you want to go on Twitter, I'll be linking it out. So will Sean, so will Luke. Feel free to check it out so that way you guys can watch that live with us and see our reactions and hopefully see who won the prediction show. It might be Dave. We'll find out, though. If you guys want to follow the show and follow me, if you guys want to check it out on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, you can search up GUG Podcast or Growing Up Gaming Podcast. We also have a Facebook group, so just search Growing Up Gaming in Facebook. You'll find the group there. And feel free to give me a subscribe, a like, a comment, anything positive or negative. I want to make sure that everybody's happy with the show. If something's bothering you, let me know. If you guys are enjoying the show, that's nice to know as well. And again, if you guys want to be on the show just like he was, send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. Again, guys, thank you so much for listening each and every week to the show, and I will catch you guys next week with another new episode. See ya.